Welcome back to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series winter season of TFT. We are in week 4-5 of this competition, and things have really started to heat up. We have 3 matches scheduled for you this week, and the scores are very close still at the top of the standings.
Hello, everyone. We have a banger of a week coming to you guys. Sadly, due to technical issues and the server going down, we had to move one of the games to this week. So this is why this week you're getting a 3 game special. My name is Dead the Ghost. I'm joined here by Invective, and welcome to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. And Invective, I think in this triple header, I should definitely come up with something better. We are expected to see a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, I think that, after last week, our tie at the top of the standings has finally been broken. Fel Kusavai has a 2 point lead on Chris, and that could still, it could very well still change this week here. But yeah, Nikki Moki, otherwise known as Fel Kusavai, is out to a 2 point lead, and the rest of the field in the top 16 is still contending for placements here. I think our
Mm.
previous champion Katsu, down at 46 points, is within striking distance of first place if things go their way. And overall, I would say that this entire field is looking pretty strong heading into this week of competition.
I mean, yeah. No, looking at it, you saw Chris take a bottom four for the first time this whole tournament, and a couple of the other people, like you said, like Katsu, like Big D, have made sort of that stride up and have made the standings be a little bit closer. But one thing I am very interested in Invective is how much will our players cook in this three game let's call it super week. I think that should be a fitting name for it. And throughout this tournament we've already seen a lot of our people cook, and you know I'm hoping to see something very interesting in this game number one.
I'm with you there, and I think that the way that the meta has shifted does move a little bit further away from some of our players' strengths, right? I think that going fast 9 is, while it's definitely still viable, going to run into a lot of competition and a lot of high tempo compositions in the mid game because of the way that reroll is currently dominating the meta from 1 to 3 cost. And because of that, you'll see boards come online at the start of stage 3 through to the middle of stage 4 and stage 5. And those are going to be very difficult to contend with when you are going to level 8, when you are going to level 9, and you don't have a really optimal spot.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how our players develop in stages 4 and 5 with those level 8 comps. But I think production is ready for us. To yeah. So, Invective, I did ask about cooking because I already have something cooked up myself. I have my popcorn ready, and I want to see what our players will be cooking up.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be the theme of the day, a real spectacle. Get your popcorn ready. It's going to be absolute cinema. Very glad to be able to see our lovely chat here during the game as we peek out from under the shop. And yeah, this is going to be a reasonable start for Chris, who might just be going into Fairy with this opener, but these are just the units that we have right now.
Yeah, it is. It is. Looking like a fairy start a little bit, and I don't mind it. A fairy start can definitely be very very powerful as our first augments are coming in, and we're seeing a 1 2 3. So this is an augment that I like quite a bit. So hopefully we get to see it played. We're already seeing some people going for tiny titans. Hopefully we get to see a lot of variety, and not you know 8 players going for 2 to 3 and 3 augments, because I want to see some variety. I want to see how our Our players are going to uh, adapt and choose their augments throughout the game. Once twos three does seem to be picked up by, I believe that was Christopher. So Christopher definitely with a plan to start off strong in this early game.
Yeah, and I think that with Anvil Buffet, you will start to see a lot of players commit to their lines here in stage two. They'll crucify and Chris, maybe not as committed as the other players. Both of them seem to have been taking econ augments, but this is, Delcrucify has precise planning, but this is about as bad of a loss as you could take when you have that augment. 4-0 is not the optimal way to start the game.
No, definitely not. And I mean, looking at it, it is it is going to be a very interesting start from Telkusvai because I see a lot of units getting bought here. Maybe we're going towards that shapeshifter hunter start because we do see that Nomsy, we do see that at least too. However, there is some option to pivot into something different. And right now we're going up to Wiglor, and he has that Ash too. He has that Warwick too, and that's a Rage Blade already on the Ash.
Yeah, so playing around over encumbered, I believe that Wiglor is probably going to be playing around either Callista or Jinx, and by picking up the Rumble, I think that indicates they are open to at least open to the Jinx line here. But there is already another player in this lobby who does have a Jinx, who has the Runaan's Hurricane slammed, and so if you are playing that line, you know that you're contested at this point. And it can be frustrating, right? To select a set of items and a set of lines that people have already committed themselves to by choosing their items in the way that Anvil Buffet prompts them to do. But that is just the way that this portal plays out, and you have to be able to adapt to that.
Looking at it, I definitely think that Wiglor has an idea of what to do in the early game, but uh, I think he just wanted to grab that dash to put that Rage Blade on, and it's not like he doesn't have some options other than the Jinx for the later stages of the game. You do have that Callista special with that 5 multi striker that can happen. However, in like you said, it is going to be a little bit tough going up against someone who has already committed themselves to Jinx and to some of those three cost carries. So it is going to be a little bit more difficult for Wiggler.
Yeah, and as we get a sense of the complexion of the lobby, I know that there is one player who already has an Ari and has already slammed a jeweled gauntlet on her. I think that is one of the most powerful compositions you could be playing in this metagame right now. Whether it is at EMEA regionals or America's regionals, we've seen Ari really dominate the competition when you were
Mm-hmm.
able to hit her and the rest of the supporting units here with the Zoe and the one cost bastions early on. That comp is really very powerful when you allow Ari to scale. She can really dominate the battlefield. Over in the match that we were just about to watch, there's also a
Mm-hmm.
Syndra player. So that is going to be interesting to see if they are able to stack up that Syndra quickly enough for her to be relevant. And Syndra is really one of those compositions that we know what she could do in the first batch of the set, but right now she's a little bit more high variance as to whether you can stabilize hard enough in the mid game to really start stacking her up.
And it's all about that Spear of Shojin and that Rage Blade, or maybe a Nashor's Tooth, because you really need that mana generation, and you also need that little bit of extra oomph from the attack speed to just get her stacking up. Whereas earlier in the set, you could definitely get away with just going one or the other. However, right now, when her cast is a little bit longer, you do need both that attack speed and that mana generation to just help you out, stack up that Syndra. And she's by no means a weak unit at all right now. I think she's in a state where she's really balanced and can be playable. However, not too overpowered like she was at the beginning of the set.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's sort of one of the benefits of having a portal like Anvil Buffet, where all of your drops are going to come in the form of anvils. and as such, you are able to itemize for best in slot for Syndra very, very quickly. And I think that you really would have to make the most out of that, like
Mm.
you said, to get the most out of Syndra. Um, we can see that some of our players are still flexible. I think Chris is really just leaning into the strength that early game Fairy will provide you with this early Katarina and so on and so forth. But we saw him on an early 3 streak, and hopefully for him, he is able to continue that onto a 5 streak onto stage 3.
The big ball is still here in Vective because I very much am enjoying seeing all of this cooking from our players. So I got my absolute cinema ready right here, and well, I wish you were like right here next to me so I could share this big ball. But we're going back to the game right now, and we are currently looking at Christopher, who just took a loss after that carousel, but did manage to grab a bow if I'm not mistaken, and already has that Poppy 2, that Lilia 2. So are we looking at a little bit of a pivot into that Zoe Ari come stage 3, or do you think that it's just, oh, I hit a couple of upgrades as Christopher, and you're just looking to have a stable stage 2 and stage 3 and just pivot towards the classic Christopher late game comp?
Yeah, I think that's really just you know, Zoe 2 could be a good next in when you are playing a board that has a lot of magic damage on it that can benefit from playing Witchcraft, and Zoe will focus down
Mm.
units in the mid game. So I don't really think that Christopher is likely to pivot into Ari. We don't have any tiers slammed or chosen. We have an open bow, maybe an open belt, if I remember correctly. So it really does look like you are leaning very strongly towards Callista. And I would say
Mhm.
Callista is one of those 4 cost compositions that is still alive and well because the composition is so optimized, because the composition is so stable when you can get to level 8 with a lot of econ.
Yeah, I mean it's the classic Christopher comp, isn't it? He just has a very decent looking board from the start. He will pivot after 3-5 carousel, and then you just see a magical board at level 8 come out of virtually nowhere. We do apologize for a little bit. We are experiencing some technical difficulties with our spectator mode. Uh, I believe this always happens once a new patch drops, so I'm very much not surprised. But while our production works tirelessly to fix those issues, we get to talk a little bit more about the game here, and uh, I mean, it's also a battle of our top two players here because both Tel Kusavai and Christopher are in this lobby. So, Invective, do you have a favorite coming into this game?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Thelkusvai's game plan looks to me right now. I believe Thelkusvai was the one who took precise planning, so he is going to be off to a very strong economic start if he's managed that correctly. Um, Now that he is on a win streak, he can't be playing too strong, but actually, it could be the case that both of these players are angling for the Callista. Now, Thelkusvai did not pop another bow, so we will choose a rod, and I believe Thelkusvai really wants to find more
Mm.
bows from here on out, but the way the items are looking really seems to me like those frontline items go on Rakan, and these 2 rods are going to become Rage Blades.
Yeah, it does. It does certainly look like it's going to be a 3 or a 5 fairy game come the later stages for Telkusvai, especially because you see the Hecarim, you see the Katarinas being on that bench, also that Jax. So it's just looking like he's preparing himself for a pivot into that multi striker or fairy board, uh, depending on what he gets. And the second round, the Vogmans are coming in. So what do you think would be interesting to see for Telkusavai?
Well, I think Thelkusvai is probably going to go with You Have My Bow there. It is just
Mm,
too nice to have one of those Rage Blades already working. And I would
mm,
say in the matchup between Thelkusvai and Christopher, I favor Thelkusify because Christopher, I think, does not have as much economic strength as Thelkusify, and Thelkusify might find themselves in a better
Mm.
position on level 8. We'll still have to see what the cards have in store for us, but yeah, that is where I stand on the matchup between the two of those guys. And over here with Pupango, I think that they are looking very, very healthy for Ari. I would say that because there are not that many contesters, and because we already have so many Aris on level 5, we're on a 3 streak, we're not unhealthy, this is a great position to be in for the mid game. And hey, we might even be winning another fight against Pro Jester 1 here.
I mean, it's definitely looking like Pupengo is going to take the win, and yeah, he is. You know, 90 HP, four win streak. Already has 5 Aries, 4 Zoes, and also has a lesser champion duplicator. So we definitely can see that Pupengo has a lot on his board for this stage 5. A little bit lacking in the frontline department because oh, never mind. I was going to say that Lilia is not 2-star. However, uh, the charms have decided to make me eat my words because uh, I forgot the name of the charm, but you basically get a 1-star copy of a unit you fielded last round, and so it just so happened to be the Lilia getting that Lilia too.
Yeah, that's a very convenient upgrade to find, and this board seems to be, like you said, stable enough to take, not to take too many losses before we find the 3-star frontline that we're really looking for. And even in this matchup against Christopher, and Christopher, by the way, seems to be going more into the Jinx, but also holding these Ari units away from Pupango. You know,
Hmm.
this is starting to be a game in which our top players are really competing with each other on multiple fronts. Griefing another competitor's comp when it's the dynamic is like this. Christopher is basically just spending excess gold on holding these units. This can be tilting, this can be very frustrating. If you're sitting here with Pupango's perspective, you're just like, why is this guy doing this? Well, it's because he's a strong competitor and he knows that what you're playing is really strong as well. Knows that he has to stop you this way because he might not be able to stop you any other way later on down the line.
I mean, it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how his board develops. But yeah, looking at it, Christopher, he's also thinking about his placement because he got his first bottom 4. He's like, okay, I'm starting to drop a little bit. So how about I start contesting people? While I'm thinking about my comps, start to give them a little bit of an extra headache, just so they can have a little bit more of a tougher time. But yeah, looking at it, I believe we also have another one of our top 4 in here. Is that I believe production can help me out. I believe that is sheep with the is that Mandarin? So that production has confirmed to us that it is sheep, and it is a Mandarin nickname. So yeah, yay to me. I'm from Southeast Europe. I have no connection to the East Asian languages, so it was a lucky guess, but I'm happy I got it right.
Yeah, well, in any case, I'm glad that, your cultural awareness is growing day by day. Um, I think that the way the lobby is shaping up, there are a few more hunter players than might be optimal for any of them to be in that line. We can see that Chris is currently using a Jinx as his item holder, but we're not really sure if that is the line that he is going to continue pursuing. Maybe he thinks that Delkusvai is in too good of a spot for Callista to contest Callista optimally. And maybe he thinks that, hey, these Jinx players aren't as strong as they are aren't as strong as the alternative, right? So let's contest the Jinx players and just play for a top 4 in that regard. I think that those are both me- valid ways of thinking about it, but remains to be seen exactly what Chris wants to do with the money that he's built up.
Um, uh, Another thing that I do have to point out is I forgot which player was. However, they did have spin to win, so you're already. you already have that Wukong augment. You already have that Jinx. So it's a little bit risky, I would say, from Christopher to try and contest the Jinx Wukong board that is already ramping up quite a bit. So it is a little bit scary, and maybe panic is starting to set in just a little bit for Christopher. But I'm just hoping that he keeps his head down, and that Jinx is just a stepping point towards like I mentioned before, the classic level 8 board from Christopher.
Yeah, what I would say is that, that spin to win really does make a huge difference when you're already angling for the hunters, when you already have that gargoyle slammed on a Wukong. Bam, you have a Wukong too, and that really protects your mid game from a lot of bad outcomes. Because a lot of the time when you are playing this three
Mm.
cost reroll, the hardest point in the game to navigate is stage 3, because you don't have a lot of gold to roll on level 6, and it's a much less optimal play to go deep on level 6. But you do need to save HP and gold on your way to level 7. And therein lies the conundrum. So really, you by getting this Wukong 2 online in the mid game, it really makes a tremendous difference.
And we're already seeing the third augments coming in as we're getting back. And Christopher has, like you predicted, has gone down to that fairy line. We have that 5 fairy triple multi striker board, and you have that. Yeah, there is one Callista, two Rakans, so it's far from a classic Christopher Roldan where he just hits. However, it is looking like a solid board right now. But I do think you need those upgrades to come in for Christopher, and he has Tiny but Deadly, which is going to be very strong. But yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit tougher if he doesn't hit that Callista or that Rakan 2 in the next couple of rounds.
Yes, I agree. Really difficult. And we can see that Pupengo, who I believe is the one playing the Ari, in a really good spot right here, as well as some of our other reroll players, they're really coming online. I think this Spirit Visage or Anima Visage is going to be temporary on that Wukong, but still very strong for this round. And we can see that Sheep is in a much more dominant position compared to some of the other Hunter players like Wiglor, who Wiglor, we saw them beat Christopher in that 4-1 fight, but unfortunately for them, or 4-2 fight, but unfortunately for them, they have 0 gold.
Mm.
And Sheep is up here at 50 gold, 6 Wukongs, really stable. And even if they don't hit Wukong 3 or Jinx 3, they have HP to play with. So Wiggler is going to have to get from here until like the middle of stage 5 without going out in order for them to really be a threat to Sheep in
Mm.
this position.
Yeah, and it's also the thing of you're looking towards Sheep, who has that spin to win, who has that Wukong 2, is currently second in the lobbying in terms of health, and I don't see it going any other way in the next couple of rounds, because Wiggler really needs to not hit a lot of these carries, and it's like you said, it's going to be a very much an uphill battle for him.
I agree with you there. I think that Progester 1 is in a really tough spot. I don't know if you would want to be in this spot, but having lost 8
Mm.
rounds in a row, we are sitting here on what could very well be one life. And who are we but fighting but Sheep? This seems like it could be a really tough matchup to win.
It is going to be a very tough matchup to win, because not only is there a Jinx 2, it is also a Jinx 2 with two Hurricanes, one of them being a Radiant one, and we're seeing Progester 1 take the loss. However, they live on 1 HP, and I think this next round is going to be go time for them, because they need to level up. They need to level 7. They need to hit some of these upgrades if they're rolling down. Basically, a lot of things need to happen, and you're kind of banking on you surviving this round, and try to go. try to go in towards that top four. Small mistake, missed the Kog'Maw for for that five Honeymancy, but I don't think it is going to be five Honeymancy here.
Yeah, that is a tough turn to be faced with if you're Pro Jester 1. But I think that we needed to be a little bit more decisive on that roll down because this is really just the gamble that you're playing for. This is really just the end of the game if you don't get it right. It does look like we might be able to win the fight against Christopher, who unfortunately for them, they still haven't found the Rakan 2, still haven't found the Callista 2, and now their stage 4 is looking really, really difficult.
Also, a little bit of a happy, lucky charm for Prochester one. Sorry, the pun was unintended. Uh, the suspicious trench coat went onto the Galio, so the Galio was able to enact a triple stun onto that Callista, rendering her effectively unable to do anything for half of that round. And I think it's very lucky that Progester one faced off against Christopher, because Christopher now is going to get a couple of more item ambles. That second Rage Blade is going to come for that Callista, and we're definitely going to see a lot more a lot more upgrades coming in for him.
Yeah, and the Lesser Champion Duplicator here in the shop for Pro Jester 1 could make a very big difference, but we have to make our decisions quickly because there are two anvils sitting on our bench. We are looking for frontline, we are looking for upgrades to the Blitzcrank, and we'll get a Warmogs. That is a good start. I want to see you roll down Pro Jester 1 because you could hit something very, very good in that shop. It could be a Blitzcrank 3, it could be two Vigars, but no, we are going to commit to that Blitzcrank 3, saying we need more gold in order to win this game, in order to improve our placement, and we'll see whether that pans out because now we are against Thelkusavai, and Thelkusavai looks like Christopher's big brother, has the Fairy +1, has Callista with two Rage Blades upgraded to level 2, so is this Blitzcrank that we found for the front line going to be strong enough to stand up to her?
It certainly does look like it's very strong for now. However, that Callista has ramped up so much. This Karma is virtually non-existent. Karma 2 as a unit. Well, there are about 50 memes around it after this patch, so you know it is it is on the lower end of the strength of the forecast, and we're seeing the aftermath of Chris holding other people's units, and that is Sheep is holding Callista from him as well, because Sheep knows that if Christopher can hit the Callista too, then that would mean it's going to be dire straits for the rest of this lobby. However, Sheep has managed to just hit that Wukong 3. He's not too they're not too far off. The Jinx are not too far off that Bard. So this board from Sheep is definitely very strong.
Yeah, I'm curious to know if these players are actually quite close with one another because this level of griefing, I feel like it is not something that you see every day. And, this is one of the reasons why this Jinx board is so strong. You can see that Jinx is matching up quite favorably into Callista, even as this Wukong gets stunned up by Zillion, even as Callista throws a million spears into his back. Unfortunately, this Wukong spinning to win is just strong enough to outlast the Rakan. So Thelkusvai is going to take a bad loss here, and we can see that Christopher is faring even worse. Our second place player is looking to go out in what might be as bad as 7th place. And that is a hard loss to deal with, as it seems like the reroll players have really done a better job of keeping relevance in this lobby.
And also looking at it, I'm very surprised that Christopher did not get a second Rage Blade, but was actually forced to go into that red buff. And I do want to point out, Christopher has managed to hit a Morgana and also managed to get a Milia 2 before hitting a Callista 2. So this is very, very interesting. It's going up against Wiglor, who also seems to be struggling a little bit with his board. So maybe Christopher got a pass in this round because this Morgana is really, really tanky, but this Olaf is just mowing through everything that Wiglor's board is coming up with, and Christopher is going to take that loss. He's going to go out in 6th, and we were praising Christopher so much these last couple of weeks, but I mean, is it just a case of a bad patch for Christopher, or do you think the pressure is getting to him a little bit?
I think there's an I think there's a problem with the game plan to a certain extent. I think that when you see the complexion of this lobby, Christopher normally makes pretty sound decisions about what lines to contest, but Vel'Kouzafai clearly had a little bit more econ to play Callista, and a lot of players were really opting into this Jinx. So I would say that if Christopher reflected a little bit on this game, they would have to say that are we really forced to play AD here? Must we play this Jinx? Or can we find something else to do with the anvils that we were provided? Just because we had a fairy opener doesn't necessarily mean we had to go down that line. And now we can see that, Thelkusfi is going to have this matchup against Wiglor. So Wiglor is really facing Callista back to back, but I think this Rakan is going to prove much more difficult to kill because, well, don't make me eat my words, Olaf, because this fight is going a lot better for Wiglor than I thought it would.
Uh, See, we've been eating our words a lot when it comes to hunter boards, and that is because Wiglor has managed to level up to 9 and has managed to cash out as well from the sugarcraft. But the thing is, that is a 6 hunter board, and we know that 6 hunters is extremely strong. Uh, and so this board from Wiglor is very interesting because he managed to adapt in a way that he doesn't have to roll down for that Jinx 3. He just wanted to get a Jinx 2 for that extra bit of strength, and he of item anvils, he has some very good items both on the Olaf and on the Jinx. However, he's going up against Fengo, who has managed to hit so many upgrades. This Ari is basically doing 1,000,000 damage per cast, and the Zoe's just deleting everything. So Wiglor sadly drops down to Pupengo, who is in second place. Vel'Kouzafai is going to take a loss to Sheep, and some of our players from this middle of the pack are definitely trying to catch up to our leaderboard.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's really well played from Wiglor, realizing that you can't play for Jinx 3 in this game, you actually have to level up. And from what we saw, their economic position was much weaker than you would really want to in order to push levels like that, but I think they made the right decision all around, and that is what got them to fourth place this game. I think that, it's a really tough line to walk, but that's one of the stronger fourths that I've seen in this competition. And I would say that Sheep seems to be dominating the end game right now, but Pupango really has a very powerful board, and we'll see because it in this matchup there is a lot of stalling going on, right? This Wukong
Mhm.
is an impenetrable front line, but as is the set of bastions that Pupango is working with. So in that matchup, is the Rage Blade of the Jinx going to win out, or is the scaling true damage of this Ari going to win out?
Well, looking at it, it does seem to be like a fairly even out matchup. This Jinx 3 coming in for Sheep might just sway things the other way. However, I did see Pupengo's economy, and I do believe after this round, come next round, he will have enough econ gold to level up to 8 and put that 6th bastion in, which is going to level up his board. It's very much, and just 1 gold short. However, he does get that Chen, and next round he will be able to level up, put in that 6th bastion, and 6 bastions basically gets a 215% increase in stats compared to 4 bastions. So that is going to be a very strong board from Pupango if he can survive this round, and then can probably start contesting Cheap, who is currently, I mean, he just hit bar 3 as well. So this board is definitely looking very scary.
Yeah, I think that Sheep, maybe made some tiny micro mistakes. Using the remover at the start of stage 6 on this Jinx does mean that we might not have a remover to put some of those items on Bard. I'm not really sure if that makes a huge difference, but we can see, in this matchup, Vel'Kouzafai is just barely going to stay alive, and that means things are a little bit dicier for Pupango because, like you said, they want to level up. They want to put in this extra Bastion unit, but I don't even think we're going to be able to buy a charm here.
No, I don't think a charm is going to come in. And you also don't want to buy that major polymorph here, because you do want that Tarek 2 to remain on your board, because it does gives you 6 Bastion, unless you just want to transform it and take the 1-star Tarek. However, I don't think Pupanga would be really happy with that. Is going to go up against the Ghost of Tel Kusavai, so if he can get a win, or a good enough flaws that he goes out in second, I think Pupengo should definitely be very happy with his placement that game. But it certainly is looking like Pupengo is winning at least this battle against the Ghost of Telkusavai. And Telkusavai has taken a loss. I believe he is. Yeah, it was a cutscene death, which is why it was delayed a little bit. So Pupango and Sheep definitely are top two for this game number one.
Yeah, and Sheep is really on top of their game right now. We can see that they're denying the Diana with the Warmogs away from Pupengo, and that is definitely what could have been, the strongest possible pickup for Pupengo in this situation.
Mm,
I do think that Pupengo's frontline needs to be positioned as well as possible in order to make a difference here, because we are going to be in a state where you have to deny the Hunter reset for this Jinx as long as humanly possible, right? I think that if you are able to do that, then you can limit the amount of DPS that this Hunter board is able to do, and that makes all the difference in terms of letting your Ari scale up. So we'll see, because Pupango has a really tall mountain to climb, a really steep cliff
mm.
to surmount in order to get this done, because there is a lot of HP sitting in Sheep's Bank right now.
And you said something about the item remover not being available. Well, it looks like just a
It does look
Reforger
like it
is
was
going to
available.
give you it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the a Reforger was available, and you know what? It reforged into some really good bard items, and Sheep is just going to give us a taste of how Divine Sword Aurelia eliminates people on the board, which is in a very divine and holy manner. So congratulations to Sheep for winning game one of this 3 game super week. Definitely utilizing his augments very in a very smart way. Hit that spin to win. He hit that. He hit some very nice early units in the Jinx already. Like you mentioned previously, already had that Hurricane and that Rage Blade, and so I mean it was just a very well played game from stage two to one up to the end.
Yeah, I would say that Sheep really did have a lot of the cards fell in their favor, but at the same time, Sheep really made the most out of their spot. And I think that, it was nice for Sheep to have a contester in Wiglor who really wasn't playing their spot poorly. I think Wiglor would have been really hard pressed to find Jinx 3 or Wukong 3, and you can see that they even made the decision to play the 4 Vanguard frontline instead of playing 4 Wukong. But if Wiglor had played differently, had played more poorly, I would say that even Sheep's life would have been much more difficult, right? Because they would have had a harder time hitting all of the units that they wanted to
Mm.
hit. And then the late game, you could see that, like, maybe it would have been a little bit worse. But the way that it turned out, both of the Jinx players actually played well, and as a result, both of them actually did better than they otherwise would have.
And I mean, looking at the board from Wiglor, it was definitely, I think in most other lobbies that board definitely gets the top two, because it was so strong. You had 6 Hunter, you had 4 Vanguard active, you had the Olaf 2, the Jinx 2. I think there was even a 3-star in there from one of the Vanguards. But so such high gameplay coming in, and it is only game one, and I couldn't be more excited to see what our players are going to bring in these next few games. But once again, congratulations to Sheep for winning game number one, and I do believe we are going to go into a small break before game 2. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, Rera and Dogpatch Labs.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Ireland Esports Collegiate Series. Here we have game two of what we are calling our Super Week. I've been Invective. I'm joined, as usual, by Deadly Ghost, and we are very excited to bring you the game two here.
Yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a very interesting lobby. It's going to be there are some very interesting developments to our leaderboard as well because you have Sheep, you have Pupango trying to contest that leaderboard. I don't think we do have the updated leaderboard ready as of yet. However, I believe we will have it ready at the end of the day. So after in game 3, production will give us some information on that. However, I'm just excited to see the top being shuffled up a little bit, and like we said, some of those players in the middle of the pack were trying to contest for that top 8 spot into our coming finals week, which is coming very soon. Is going to be very interesting. So like we see here, Wiglor from 10th to the top 4, coming in very strong. Sheep, who is tied for 3rd, trying to take over that top spot. Just two examples of some of our middle of the pack players having some pop-off games and trying to get back up to that top.
Yeah, what I will say is that, Sheep outplaced both Christopher and Thelkusify, otherwise known as Nikki Moki, in the previous game. I believe Thelkusify went 3rd place and Sheep went 1st. So Sheep is still not able to overtake Thelkusify after the previous game, but will have a chance to extend what is currently a very slight lead over Christopher in this game. So I'm very excited to see that, and maybe Thelkusify will continue to cook in whatever lobby they are playing in right now. But we have some of our other returning characters as well, as we are currently on board with Duck, who is rocking the T1 Oriana after their win on Sunday. So that's very exciting.
Yes, we do want to take this opportunity to congratulate T1 on their 5th World Championship. 5 World Championships for Faker, and Duck is definitely sporting some style from T1.
Yeah, and I think that Duck is off to a very powerful start with a pair of Zoes and an Ari on one side, as we're also back in Anvil Buffet, and the Blitzcrank 2 for a
Mm.
frontline. I think this is a very powerful opener. You have this Warwick to make sure you get 2 Vanguard, and whether you want to reroll or not, I think that you have a variety of very powerful options coming out of this spot. Who knows? We might even see something like that Blitzcrank hero augment come in next turn, and then Duck would certainly be off to the races.
Zap Attack is definitely an augment that would help out Duck quite a bit. Also, I do have to say, there is a line where you can play the Ari Zoe reroll with some of these vanguards, because you do have that Tom Kench in the Arcana trait that would usually be reserved for the Hecarim that you can go for. So with the featherweights coming in, I think that could be a very good adaptation for Duck
Yeah,
to
I think that Oh, so sorry, Deadly Ghost.
go ahead.
Duck is definitely in a great spot. I got very excited. I believe Sheep has a Neela 2 already. I don't know if that was natural or if that was the result of a polymorph. But, there are some very powerful options here. As we can see, at least 2 of our players opting for branching out, and I believe it was Detective Fierce who had the Frost emblem. So we'll see if they decide to keep that or reforge it. But Christopher has found the very powerful Sugarcraft emblem.
And the Sugarcraft emblem is strong for two big reasons. Number one is that you get a lot of that extra bit of layering on your cake, and the second thing is it allows you to play a secondary warrior carry in that later stage, in the form of the Fiora. So Fiora Gwen, when you get to that stage 3, stage 4, can be so volatile. It can be a board that basically destroys everything else. Fiora is virtually unkillable, and also having that 7 layers give her so much more extra AD can just ensure that she kills so much of that backline. However, I do have to say that right now Christopher is stuck on that on 3 sugarcraft, so definitely needs that Bard or Jinx to help him out with to get to that 4 sugarcraft and start stacking a lot earlier.
Yes, I agree with you. And over on the other side, we can see that Mitra has also taken branching out, and they have the Frost Emblem, perhaps in addition to another player who is rocking with that Frost Emblem. And Duck has taken one win over Chris so far. It looks like Duck will take yet another win. I am simply curious if Duck is going to be playing around the Warwick on which he has slammed that Rage Blade and the extra glove, or if we do have a different plan in store for what we are going to play with this Rage Blade. And if so, I don't know what we're going for.
Well, it certainly looks like right now it is going in the Vanguard and like he's going to reroll Vanguards with Ari and Zoe, at least for the start of this early game. And the featherweights do give me the impression that he is going to go for a reroll board, but we'll touch more on him um, a little bit later on his board and how he develops as we move on to is that King Hamathi? I believe.
Yeah, so I think King Himothy is going to be the player that we are on board with, and taking Young, Wild, and Free is a bold move for the early game, as it appears that we will not be continuing our win streak, and we are simply a little bit less Young, Wild, and Free than we were the stage before. Uh, Unfortunate aging happens to everyone, but King Himothy is still going to have the first selection on the carousel as they are now free to run around, but they aren't making use of it. They are just standing there, and oh no, I feel like this is what happens all the time when I pick Young, Wild, and Free.
And my old bones ache here, sonny, so I cannot move my mouse around and try and grab a little bit of an earlier unit. I do very much apologize for that. That was my impression of an old person. But yeah, King Himothy definitely lagging a little bit on the usage of his augment.
Yeah, and I think that that is unfortunate because it's really an augment that requires you to be as on top of your game, as locked in as possible, to make very quickly a decision about what is the best thing you can get off the carousel. And unfortunately, if you are picking a little bit slower than you otherwise would, the difference between the best thing you could possibly get and like the third best thing you could possibly get is oftentimes a very large disparity. So that is sometimes an unfortunate outcome. I don't know if I envy Neko's odds in this matchup, where Mitra has now found 5 Frost. So as soon as we end up killing units, those Frost soldiers are going to start coming in. And despite the fact that Mitra doesn't have the strongest front line of all time, it's really just a very one-sided matchup, as this Tristan is going to get locked up by the Zillion, and Neko is going to be taking their 4th loss of this stage. So can they keep that going into neutrals?
See, you said that Mitcha doesn't have the strongest of front lines. I would disagree there because 5 Frost gives you two Frost soldiers. So Mitcha just managed to steal away Neko's powerful front line for himself, and in that way created a good front line of his own. But yeah, like we're seeing it right here, it is 5 Frost, 2 Hunter, so that Namzi and that Twitch are dealing a little bit of extra damage. But what I also want to point out is the early Hui that has come in for Mitcha here, and he also has a second copy of Hui on this on his bench. And I see a belt, I see a bow. Will this just be a Hui board for the side of Mitcha, which is not uncommon? You know, we've seen some Hui boards pop off a lot, even in the regional finals.
Yeah, I think Hui is definitely one of the options that is on the table, but you might prefer something like the Blaster emblem to the Frost emblem if you are going to go for that. One thing I do want to comment on that really concerns me is that Mitcha is almost remarkably poor. We went on a 3 loss streak, got our 1 win, but now we really don't have any streak, and I don't think we've made a lot of interest this game either, because maybe we've been baited into getting like some of these 3 costs, such as Hui, but it is really, really difficult. And we can see on the other hand, Crazy is up at 30 gold with a 5 win streak, and the economic disparity could not be larger. So, unfortunately, I don't know if Mitcha is going to have staying power in this game if there are players like Crazy around who really just get to spend their money a lot better later on down the line.
And just looking at it, Crazy already has, what is that, 4 3 costs on his bench that could even help them, pivot and make a frost board themselves, because already has 2 frost units on the board, another 2 on the bench. All you need is a zillion, and you have 5 frost units for yourself. However, I believe that Crazy is just going to keep his board as is, and maybe sell off these units to make 50.
Yeah, I think that, actually Crazy took patience as a virtue as well. We've got 6 rerolls banked up. This is going to be very, very dominant if Crazy is able to get to something like the Jinx Wukong board. You are going to be able
Mm.
to start really dominating the game if you get like such an easy roll down on level 7. You can dominate the start of stage 4. You can keep your like you might even keep your win streak in that situation, right? And you can spend some of these free rerolls for charms to smooth out the progression from here until the start of stage 4.
I mean, just looking at it, you see the Nomzi 2 has come in. You have Double Dragon, and we're seeing the second round of augments coming in. Oh, that Golden Quest is so tempting.
I agree that it is tempting. I'm not sure if it's the best thing that we could do with our spot. I think that Crazy
Ooh.
would be quite bold to do so, but they are going to go for it. And that is definitely what you want to see. It's not the smartest move, but it is the boldest move, and I like that.
I mean, I did say at the start, my big bowl is still sitting there. I did say I want to see some cooking, and well, Crazy is on a win streak. He does have a really good board. So, I mean, just looking at it, if he manages to make to get like one or two more wins in and continue this win streak, he could definitely get away with it. Sadly for him, he's going up against this board from wait, who is that? I believe that's Detective Pierce, who just slammed a Bastion emblem on this Cassidin, uh, and is very, very strong. So this Zoe and this Ari are going to take down Crazy, and it is a 2 unit loss, so it's not the biggest, the biggest of deals. However, the problem is that win streak has been deleted and yeeted out of the window. So now it is definitely going to be uh, a much tougher task for Crazy to get some of that extra gold from a win streak, or a lot in his case the win streak coming in. So I'm I'm a little bit worried.
Yeah, I am a little bit concerned as well. Crazy, has immediately been punished for their lack of combat power, and there are some players in this lobby, such as Christopher, such as Detective Fierce, who are playing these strong combinations for their mid-game boards. You can see that Detective Fierce is able to play 2 Bastion, 2 Vanguard, and Portal by playing around this Cassidid, but that is a lot of their power, and the Kassadin has already fallen in this fight. So it's up to this Ari to make it happen. But Seraphine from Christopher is going to splash the damage onto the backline, and you can see that Christopher now has the 4 Sugarcraft online, now has Pandora's items for additional components on all of these Sugarcraft units, as well as the pick of the litter when it comes to the components that they are going to get for those units. So Christopher, I think, looking really dominant with all the scaling that they have, as well as the board power that they have, and it is really going to be a tale of 2 players here where I feel like Christopher and Crazy are going to have a lot of power to bring to bear later on in the game, but now, uh, they are already dominating to a certain extent.
Yeah, King Himothy utilizing their first augment really nicely. Mitcha has managed to snatch away that Gwen, which I'm sure Christopher would be a little bit upset about because you know Gwen Sugarcraft, you want to have her as early as possible and start stacking her. But I do want to point out that um, actually, yeah, okay. Now it makes a little bit more sense of why that vest was taken. But I think it was also a very good decision to try and deny that went from Christopher, who did look like he wanted to go for it. But still, Mitcha is on this is on this 5 cross board still, but he's not really making any progress. He spent most of stage 3 to build up that economy, and it does look like he's leveling up, but he's so far behind the rest of the lobby that I just don't see a way in which he can come back unless you know the magical just hit happens.
Yeah, it's really just a moment of like a tiny early game mismanagement, maybe getting baited into too many of these three costs, maybe just a
Mm.
moment of indecision when it comes to what units am I gonna play on my board? Oh, I want this Hui, but I forgot to put him on, so like I've got to hold a Hui on my bench, so I don't get to make 10. Or maybe it's a matter of the charms that we were inclined to purchase, but those charms proved to be just a little bit too expensive, and now Mitcha finds themselves in a hole that's really hard to climb out of. And I feel for them. But over here, we see, I think, a really successful example of Callista. I think Neko could potentially want a little bit more combat power out of their third augment, but that is not a whole lot to complain about when you have a pretty decent setup in terms of this item ladder, in terms of having this Callista already, and you are looking very powerful in this stage when you've been able to hugify your front line and have it stand up to the Seraphine of Christopher.
Yeah, but the real problem is that front line may be standing up, but Seraphine, as we know, can cast through through units unless that unit is named Terek and already is using his spell. So Neko is going to take a loss. However, Neko has managed to get to level 7, and also that explosive growth is coming in. So Neko is going to be sped up in in the experience gained towards that level 8. And like you said, I want to see that combat augment to help him out. uh, maybe he can even if it's another gold augment, I believe he can even get something to help out with his uh, with his fairies, maybe a fairy emblem, uh, or maybe an augment that would be beneficial to his fairy queen. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this board develops, because there is so much room for improvement in this board. You still need to hit that level 8, and you still need to hit that roll down. And Christopher is he has that Fiora, he has the Jinx waiting. So all he needs to do is level up to 8, uh, find that Gwen and 6 Sugarcraft can be activated, and Christopher is a very happy camper.
Yeah, this is a very powerful position for Christopher. We can see the Earthquake coming through from King Himothy is going to stun up the board at the start of the fight, but just like in the fight that we watched against Neko, this Seraphine is casting through to the backline so that Vigar has already taken a little bit of chunk, but the angles have changed, and the Vigar is no longer getting hit by Seraphine's second cast, so the fight seems to be going a lot closer at this point, but Vigar goes down, and Vex is the only real source of damage left standing for King Himothy. We know Vex doesn't do all the damage that you need to win a fight.
No, it doesn't, and I think that was a little bit unlucky for King Timothy, because the Vigar killed one of the units, and so the Vex turned towards that Tom Kench, which offered Christopher a chance to win. And oh, is it going to be Radiant Relics? Yes, it is. Christopher with a very good augment and the Blessed Bloodthirster is going to come in, and that can be used both on the Fiora and the Gwen, which is something that I would really love to see utilized. So Christopher, a much healthier game, a much more uh, clear game from his end, and we do see that he's going to, I'm hoping to see him hit and see him perform a little bit better.
Yeah, I think Christopher is definitely in a dominant position, and we'll see how far they can push the sugar stacks as the game moves forward. I mean, we see that Mitcha has found their way into another Frost emblem. That could prove to be very powerful if they get to higher levels, but as of right now, they only have 7 Frost, and that is not powerful enough because we are rocking with a Nomsy and we are going up against Christopher's sugar stacks. That is much too much to deal with for Mitcha.
I do want to point out as well that Christopher uh, also managed to hit a uh, my apologies, a Gwen. So 6 Sugarcraft has come in, and wait, has Crazy already cashed out that golden quest?
I believe so, and I think that is all thanks to a little something known as invested. Crazy didn't want to sacrifice any more of their HP, so they took 45 gold from that third augment and they were able to get to the golden quest almost immediately. That means they're basically incredibly slow rolling on level 8 to get to a board that they are more confident with. And I think that the only thing that stands in their way to like a top 2 is basically that they need to make the right decisions right now about how to spend their money, about how to make the right board around this Camille, because there are stronger boards out there, and you can see that that's what is happening right now with Christopher. All this economic advantage doesn't really mean anything if you can't translate it into board strength, and we have to translate it into board strength because all 3 of our augments are econ augments.
Yeah, and you do have to beg the question: was was Crazy wrong to take that invested and cash out, or was it the right decision? Because now you have so much gold to roll at level 8, and I mean, we still see 70, 80 gold at level 8. I do want to see Crazy roll down, but is it going to be a chrono reroll, or is it going to be a multi-striker reroll? Because there are a couple of options for Crazy. He can always go into that for chrono preserver line, which does seem to be the direction in which he's going for. But yeah, oh, that's a karma too. Very good upgrade for him. So 4 chrono, 3 preserver, double encounter, and I want to see that Blitzcrank be swapped out for a Morgana, but I guess we're going to have to wait until next round. But this Karma 2 has come in, with the red buff. This Camille has some very nice items. He's going to take down that Olaf. So I think Crazy has, definitely has a plan of what he wants to do with this board, and it does seem to be showing it right now. It is, like we said, the 7 Frost board of Mitcha that hasn't managed to do much, but it does seem a lot better for Crazy right now.
Yeah, I think Crazy did stabilize quite well. I think spending some more rerolls is not necessarily a bad idea, but you have to have in mind what you are looking for. And I think Crazy has found what they are looking for because they now have a multi-striker active for this Camille and for the rest of their board. That does make a difference when almost all of your power budget is currently in this Camille. They even feel a little bit more insecure than that as they continue rolling for another upgrade, and they do find the Morgana. So I think that is what is going to allow them to be really strong as the game goes on. But we are fighting a very powerful board over on the other side for Neko. We see that Callista with the Radiant Rageblade and an additional Rageblade online, but Rakan has already fallen because Camille has so much single target burst, and Chrono comes through. Camille is wreaking havoc in the back lane, and it's actually lights out for Neko if Camille is able to finish the job.
Yeah, and she will be able to finish the job because That you can have as tanky of a Rakan as you want. However, Rakan can do nothing versus that true damage that is coming in, and Micha is going to get taken out in eighth place. A very difficult game. However, Christopher has managed to reach the 7 layers of the 6 sugar cake and is starting to cash out just now. And I am seeing some rerolls happening. I think that's a mistake. What you're doing right now, Christopher. You need to put that emblem back on the Fiora. You know, get those components stacking, but he is going to so he was waiting to see if he gets the sword. So Blessed Bloodthirster, Sugarcraft, and then that is going to be a Styrax Gauge on that Fiora. So okay, he knows what he's doing. He doesn't need me yelling in his ear.
Yeah, it was a little bit dicey for a second, but I think Christopher had the presence of mind to put those items back on a benched unit in order to make sure that they didn't roll, the Pandora's items didn't grief them at this stage of the game, and now it looks like Fiora's items are very, very solid. Tom Kench has one extra component, and we'll be able to fix that later on through the drops from the Sugarcraft Cake, and we'll see if this board is able to go to level 9 or if Christopher is comfortable sitting with all this gold in their bank as it is.
I do want to point out, Invective, that this board from Christopher is still doing so well. It is going to take a loss right now. However, he's still the top dog in this game. He still has the highest amount of HP, and none of the upgrades have come in. Just hitting Soraka too, but the rest of this board is basically 1 star, 1 star Fiora, 1 star Gwen, 1 star Tom Kench, which is upgraded now. So I mean, we do need to see that 2 star Fiora, that 2 star Gwen come in. But if this board from Christopher is doing so well right now, if he hits those upgrades, I think that he's going to become almost unstoppable.
Yes, I agree with you. I think this is a little bit of a fast 9. I would say that it's tough to make the decision to go 9 like that when you don't have your forecasts upgraded. But I think that even so, at level 9, it shouldn't be too big of a problem to hit these forecasts. I don't think Gwen is particularly contested, and we are strong enough to beat out players like Neko, who unfortunately I feel like they don't have enough combat power at this stage of the game to really make use of the augments that they've chosen. They don't have any board-wide buffs, so the item ladder really only affects one unit, and at that point, you're really gambling on what the item ladder provides. It is going to prove to be a little bit difficult. Now, we can see that we haven't seen a lot of Sheep this game, but we know that they started this game with a Neela 2 and a Syndra, and they've really leaned into that game plan because this Syndra and Neela reroll is what they are going for, and they found the Eldritch emblem on their second augment as well. That means that this board is really bringing a lot of power to the forefront with what is almost a Galio 3 for frontline, with 2 sources of damage, or 2.5 sources of damage, and this immovable object is providing a ton of durability as well.
Yeah, the immovable object being slammed on the Neela is such a smart decision because you generally want that Neela to stand in the second row. So just having her hold that Randuin's is really smart. And we mentioned it last game. I don't think we did this game, but Sheep has utilized those anvils very effectively because that Syndra has a Spear of Shojin, a Nashor's Tooth, and a Jeweled Gauntlet. So that is one scary Syndra. Production, maybe if it is possible to right click on the Syndra just to see how many stacks she has once we get off of this carousel.
Yeah, and I think that there's another Eldritch emblem at offer here. It's not going to allow Sheep to play 10 Eldritch this game, but it does allow them to replace a unit that they don't think is quite as strong, and I think that is very, very compelling. But Christopher is going to step in and deny, and remember that Christopher has the Pandora's items, so they are going to have a chance to reroll that emblem into something that they would prefer it to be. So we instead have to pick up the Rabadon's Death Cap for the Nami, and that is power denied away from Sheep.
It is definitely it is definitely difficult for Sheep, and we see the Syndra has 84 casts, so one more round and she'll be had that 90 cast, and every 30 cast, like we see here, she does cast another orb, but I mean that is one scary Syndra invective, especially with the 7 Eldritch Bear that is so strong and such a powerful frontline.
I'm with you there. The bear is going to come in and slam the entire team of Crazy, but the Chrono Proc is going to go right back and stun up the team of Sheep. Camille has found her way onto the Neela, found her way onto the Nami, and it is going to be carry versus carry. So can Syndra do enough damage through the Death Defiance, or is Camille going to keep on dashing across the walls? Crazy is going to take another loss at this stage of the game, and they are down to 1 life. That is tough because we know how hard they greeted this game, but they have had their back against the wall for part of this stage 5 as they come into matchups against players who have a lot more combat power from their augments.
Yeah, I mean, Crazy invested so much into that early combat power. Sorry, into that early economy, and playing for so many economy augments cannot be really helpful. And we see Crazy here trying to roll down for that Karma 3, but I don't think it's going to be a possibility. Is going up against this board from King Himothy, and does seem to be doing exceptionally well. Karma 2, Camille 2. I think this is this is a top 4 board from Crazy. However, if you go into the wrong matchup, it is going to be extremely difficult for you.
I agree. And yeah, like you said, this Karma 3 seems to be like a long shot here, right? I know Crazy had a lot of rerolls banked up. I know they had a lot of gold left to spend. All of that gold above 50 is going to be turned into those free rolls. And if you don't buy a unit, you are going to get additional free rolls from Patience Virtue. But all of those rolls don't mean anything at this stage of the game if you can't get to that Karma 3. Because otherwise, it seems like we really don't have the board power to beat people like Christopher, to beat people like Sheep. And those two guys are up at the top of the standings. They are vying for first place here when the difference in points between them could be as slim as the difference in points between them this game.
Yeah, I mean it is looking very dire straits for Crazy, because I mean you are rolling down, but I don't see a lot of hits coming in. We do find one more Karma, but that's also 3 extra Rakans, and Crazy will have the luck of going up against the ghost. However, that is the ghost of Detective Fierce, who has a 2-star Diana, and also has a Bastion emblem. So I do believe that a Bastion has come in for this board, and we're already seeing that Diana be so tanky and taking out so many units. However, it is not going to be enough because Crazy is going to take a win. King Himothy is going to take a loss. That Veigar 3 not being enough, and in fact, if we have 3 people going, being so close to getting eliminated, and well, I think if I'm King Himothy, Crazy, or Detective Force, Fierce, sorry, I do not want to go up against Christopher, who just hit the Gwen 2 and the Morgana 2 in one single roll.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate, but we know for a fact that King Himothy is going to be going up against them, as we can see that Crazy at the same time hit the Karma 3. So I feel like this is really going to be a tough ask for anybody to win the game against that. The Chrono Proc is going to come through, but it is not for Chrono, and Christopher is going to be taking this one against King Himothy. So we saw that there was a lot of power in Vigard. There's a lot of power in a 3-star 3 cost, but there's even more power in a 3-star 4 cost. And so Detective Fierce, despite having a Diana 2, Emilio 2, and a great 8 Bastion board, the almost one of the most optimal 8 Bastion boards that I've been able to see, their story is going to come to an end. And I think Christopher is going to have just enough HP to survive a matchup against Crazy. But who is going to match up against Crazy the round after this? And is it going to be a case where there's going to be a matchup between Christopher and Sheep for second and third place? Because I don't know if anyone's taking down this Karma 3. And now we know that it's the Ghost matchup. So both of these players are in fact fighting that Karma 3 this turn.
And also because it is the ghost matchup, you are going to get the 80% power of that board. But looking at it, Christopher is taking heavy losses, and Sheep is taking the exact same number of losses. So yeah, we moved away from Crazy, and Crazy managed to hit Karma 3, and also I don't think there's anything on this board unless you hit like a Gwen 3-star or a Fiora 3-star that can help you out with that karma. But yeah, Sheep and Christopher are going to be duking it out, and or is it going to be Christopher going up against Crazy, and Sheep going up against the ghost of Christopher?
Yeah, so I think my guess is that Christopher is going to be fighting Sheep because Crazy was the player that both of the other players fought last round, and so now we have the matchup for second and third place between these two titans of the Ireland Esports Collegiate TFT League. And as this fight gets underway, we can see that crowd control is flying every which way. Gwen is still putting out damage, but she is one of the last remaining carries for Christopher. And despite having Sugarcraft so early on in the game, despite finding such power in those twin carries that you liked to call out, the Gwen, the Fiora, and having the Melio 2 in the backline, it is over for Christopher in third place, and Sheep has gotten the better of him for the second time today. That is really unfortunate for Christopher, but we are seeing new stars come to the forefront, and Crazy is really dominating the late game. As I don't think that even this Briar 2, I don't think that this Bear, I don't think that anything Sheep can do can match up against Crazy.
I mean, you're basically you would want to hope for a 3-star 5 cost at this point to help out, because Karma, while at 1-star and 2-star is not a very strong unit at all, at 3-star is certainly strong as heck, because we're seeing the Chrono come in. We're seeing that Camille deal so much damage, and Invective, I have to say, I did not expect a triple economy board to win out this lobby.
Well, I think Crazy really had their eyes on the prize. When you saw them in the middle of stage 4, they were rolling for a board that was strong enough to stabilize, but they weren't spending all of their gold by any means. They knew from the very start that their position required them to hit something like a Karma 3 in order to win. So as soon as they saw like a fourth Karma in their shop, they
Yeah.
picked it up and they held it. So I think that is really what the game plan was. And unfortunately, you can no longer see my face, but hopefully you can still hear me. I think it was really well played from Crazy to get to that point in the game, even if it was lucky at the end of the day to hit that Karma 3 and win out.
Yeah, you already saw that seventh karma coming in, and so I believe what Crazy did is sell that Rakan and go for those extra rerolls, and also we don't have to see your beautiful face to compliment it. Uh, y- but yeah, kudos to Crazy for getting to that karma 3. Taking over this lobby, and we saw it at the beginning. You had sorry, yeah, that Crazy had that win streak, and then went into that golden quest. And yes, Crazy took some losses, but they weren't so heavy losses, because I think he cashed out the golden quest at around 50 HP, which is normally much lower when you cash them out. You're basically cashing out at 1 or 2 lives.
Yeah, so Crazy really gave themselves the opportunity to form a game plan once they knew which 5 cost they received from the Golden Quest. And despite the fact that the augment only gives 2 items, despite the fact that the augment requires you to have more money, they found the right augment to do the job in terms of invested. And
Hmm.
they leaned into the direction that they were given. So, we said it was a bold choice in stage 3 when Crazy did pick up the Golden Quest. I'm glad to see that it worked out for them because in playing in such a bold way, they were able to topple two of the stronger players that we have in this league in Sheep and in Christopher. So we've seen a ton of awesome play here in game 2. We're going to send it to a short break before game 3, and before we do that, I just want to give another shout out to our sponsors in GG Machines and PlayAid.
I lied awake for days, counting all the ways I died. Everything I couldn't save, buried down, still half alive. It's got me crawling in my skin, but no one's coming out to hold me close. Pouring out the gasoline, yeah, I've been making friends with all these ghosts, and I got nothing left to lose. Fight to the future.
Welcome back to our final game of the day for the Ireland Esports TFT Collegiate Series winter season. We have had two awesome games, where we have some of the players who are at the very top of our standings duking it out in the form of Chris and Sheep. And we saw Sheep get the better of Chris a few times, but we're going to hop into a lobby where the middle of the pack are competing for those points, competing for their right to compete in our finals in 2 weeks. And they're going to have to put on a show because in order to get to those finals, they're going to have to get to our top 8. And a lot of these players are sitting in between top 8 and top 16 right now.
And like we said, these games are so important because we are now at the end of week 5. Week 6 next week is the last week before we get to our finals on November 19th. And like we stated last week, every game is starting to matter more and more, but I think for these last 3 games, the one played today and the other 2 that are going to be played next week, every point matters. So you really want to be optimizing your build as much as possible. You want to be looking for those uncontested lines, maybe looking towards, smoothing out some of those rough edges and just trying to see uh, how you can improve your gameplay because you only have 3 more shots to make it into the top 8, and this middle of the pack is definitely very close in terms of points. Only like 5 or 6 points is the difference between 8 and 16. So that's not a lot. You could basically get in on 2 good games and just bank on one of those people above you having a not so good with week 6.
Yeah, the standings are definitely very close. I would say that, if you're sitting around 35, 40 points right now, you could really make a push for that top 8, but you have to make the most out of each of these games. And on board with King M, we already see a few Sugarcraft units that could be the way we send our early game, or we could just keep those units in throughout the whole game and try to cash out that Sugarcraft later.
I mean, we did see last game Christopher was very close to cashing out into getting that getting that that crown. I think he was at like 1600, and you need to get like 2100 to get that crown. So I think Christopher was like 2, maybe 3 rounds away from catching it out. So you know, just looking at it, if you can field some of those early sugar crabs, you can probably get to you can probably get a good game going. And we saw Christopher; he definitely had a very strong board, and I think if it hadn't been for that crazy Karma 3 coming in from Crazy himself, it it was definitely going to be a much closer fight between him and Sheep for that top spot.
Yeah, and we could see something just as crazy in this game because we see Higanbana already has a champion duplicator on that bench. So, getting a champion duplicator this early on into the game, it can create some difficulties, right? It means almost always that you are going to be down a little bit of gold relative to your peers. So you want to spend it in as wise of a way as possible and make sure that you get value out of it, get tempo out of it that rebounds you into the game, either because you get very strong in the mid game or because you get tremendously strong when you hit a 2-star 4 cost or even a 2-star 5 cost. But by taking category 5 and starting to play around that jinx, maybe they have a different plan in store for us.
See, I was very much surprised because I saw Stars Are Born and I was like, "Oh, Stars Are Born. We have a very strong star that can come in. However, it is going to be that category 5 with the Runan's Hurricane and Invective. We you talked a little bit about hero augments, and unfortunately, it isn't the zap attack. However, it is the the high horsepower, and Lilia. We saw how powerful Lilia can be in the EMEA regional finals because that Lilia at the end was doing about 2500 damage per cast.
Yeah, high horsepower is definitely one of those augments that can completely get out of control. But over here, there are some interesting boards being constructed. The real control has 7 Blitzcranks, so that is going to be a lot of Blitzcranks. If they find something like 2 Tanky as their second augment, I would be happy to see them play these Blitzcranks throughout the game. But as it is, by taking patient study and having all of these Blitzcranks, I'm not sure if the real control knows exactly what they're going to be doing with all of these robot guys.
I mean, it is obviously what is going to happen. 9 Blitzcranks are coming in, and Blitzcrank 3 is going to be the biggest tank. Uh, you know, I'm having a little bit of fun here. Apologies to anyone who possesses ears and is listening to me. But yeah, the real control is, you know, exuding a lot of control in this early game, for lack of a better word. Getting have going for that win streak from the patient study, getting that little bit of extra XP. And usually patient study is a loss streak augment. However, even if you get those wins, you are getting 1 XP less, but still, it's a lot of extra XP coming in. So I think the real control, if you can get that Blitzcrank 3, already has the Nomsy 2, the Twitch 2, that Rumble is patiently sitting, helping out with that double Vanguard. So, I mean, this looks like the real control basically has stage 2 in one almost, I should say.
Yeah, I got a comment on this positioning. Where did Duck just put his Jinx? Maybe Duck wanted a better slot on this carousel. That is one reason that I could see why they have suddenly put their backline carry into the front line. But they definitely took a lot of damage from the real control here, and you can see that Duck is all the way down in second place, second pick. So maybe that will come back to benefit them.
And the Wukong and the Jinx are both gone, so Duck basically lost for nothing.
Yeah, and now Duck seems to be forced to take a 1 cost rod for Rage Blade. So that's not optimal, but hey, at least you got your Rage Blade.
I don't know whether I should be extremely sad for Duck or whether I should be extremely confused by that Jinx positioning. So I'm guessing I'm guessing Duck lost that second round by a very slim margin, and that's why he put the Jinx out in the in the front to try and continue that loss streak. However, it does seem like the name of the game for Duck is Never Punished, because he naturally found a Wukong, now has 30 gold, has that Jinx with Rage Blade and Hurricane, and if he can get one more bow, he will have two Hurricanes with that Category 5 augment, and stack up that Jinx with that Wukong board. So, Invective, I think Duck is you know, inting his placement purposefully. However, the plan is definitely clear from his end.
Yeah, I would agree that the plan is clear. What I want to see out of Duck is not to lose too much HP before they get into the rerolling phase of the game. So the way that they've played this maximizes the gold that they have, but I feel like there is something to be said for the amount of time that is going to elapse before you can spend any of that gold. So is Duck willing to roll on level 5, level 6, in the middle of stage 3 in order to stabilize their board before they get to level 7, before they start, really capitalizing on this Jinx and this Wukong? Because if they're not, then they're going to have to get lucky in order to bridge the gap in HP.
The thing is, he's at level 4 he has 3 units filled in, so we already know that he wants to go on that loss streak. But the issue I have is you really need to start thinking about buying some of those very important units that you need in the form of the Zillion, in the form of the Bard, because that board needs to come online as quickly as possible. And like you said, you really are going to be banking on hitting, and if that massive reroll doesn't happen, then all that means is that well, Duck is going to be in a extremely difficult position come stage 3 and 4.
Yeah, I would agree with you. This is an interesting spot now that we see out of Jose Loma. They have a lot of stuff on their bench. They have a Galio pair, they have 6 Zoes, and they are getting item components slowly but surely from the Dragon Spirit augment that they chose for their first augment. I think that augment is going to do reasonably well into some of the Ari players, into some of the AP rerollers, and we are getting more of those units that we held. So we have upgraded this Galio to 2-star, and I would love to see us play something like this Warwick over maybe Ezreal in order to increase the value of the Vanguard on our board. But we are just going to keep rolling. We are just going to keep trying to find some of these portal units. And portal reroll is one of the more interesting lines that I've seen today.
I do want to point out that I believe that Winter's approach was a mistake for the side of Jose Lomo, because I think that Zoe could have just been a very good Spear of Shojin Rage Blade holder for that rise when you want to eventually hit it. But yeah, it's Jose Lomo has went for that early reroll game, and it is paying out for them, because you have 7 Zoes, you have a couple of Blitzcranks, you have a lot of interesting augments here. I think Big Grab Bag should be a very helpful augment, because you have Dragon Spirit and you have Big Grab Bag, so that's a plethora of items coming in for Jose Lomo.
Yeah, it is very interesting. I think Jose Loma is potentially going to end up in a situation where they have too much of their power budget in items. I would say that not every composition in the game uses a high number of items well, so they might need to do some work to get to the point where they're in a composition that has like 2 or 3 frontliners or 2 or 3 carries or both of those things. And that really could be a challenge in terms of line selection, but the big grab bag is useful right now. It's just that it might not be so useful later. And we can see that over here on this Witchcraft board, Llama is a player we haven't had a chance to check in with for a while, both today and in general, but they're on a 7-loss streak. And this Witchcraft spat really hasn't proven to be a strong way to play this early game. We'll have to see if Llama's able to get onto 6 Witchcraft or even 8 Witchcraft if they get another spatula, and that could turn their fortunes around.
I do want to point out that that is a Gwen, and that is a Fiora, and that is a double warrior for Witchcraft, double Preserver coming in, and also you have Sugarcraft. I saw Milio in the shop. Okay, so Llama has just decided to forgo any of the basic principles and rules of TFT and level up to 7 on an uneven round, just hit, and then get a 5 cost with a 1% chance.
Yeah, it is very interesting that Llama didn't go for the Emilio there. I feel like Emilio is not a bad unit to be playing around here. You could start itemizing additional units by playing around Emilio and stacking components. And I think that is one way that you could get a little bit more board power as you are trying to turn this spot around. But I know that it is sometimes complicated to play a unit that doesn't fit with all of the synergies that you have going on. And Emilio would make things a little bit awkward, whether you want to drop the Zoe and go down a Witchcraft level, or if you dropped the Bard, you would be losing Preserver and Sugarcraft. So things can get complicated in that regard. And now we see Llama picking up a Gwen pair, so that is one way that they are going to be able to continue moving forward in this game. But it does become complicated. I really think that this is hard to play out, because are you going to be playing the old version of Witchcraft with Karma instead of the version of Witchcraft that plays around Rise and Fiora? I think that might be what you have to do in this situation if your items are blue buffed and Jeweled Gauntlet.
I mean, looking at it, it does certainly look like it's going to be a Karma angle, unless Llama is trying to invent a new playstyle called I'm going to hit Gwen 2 as early as possible and kill everything on the board with that.
Yeah, that doesn't sound entirely bad, but we'll have to see, right? This front line has been getting a little bit stronger every round, but we are dealing with this Wukong here. Fortunately, a lot of our damage is ability power, and it doesn't look like Duck has enough damage to compete with us as Gwen finds her way into the backline. The Witch's curses are doing their work, and for the second time this game, Llama has won a round.
Well, it does seem like the witches are succeeding slowly but surely after ramping it up a little bit. Llama has also just managed to hit a couple of these upgrades, so it's not too surprising to see him to see them get those wins right now. But correct me if I'm wrong, here, Invective, but is Sprumble going for a mix of Mage and Chrono?
I have no idea. This is very interesting to me. I think that, when you have so many players this lobby going for 1-cost reroll, I think it can make sense to play for a certain degree of 1-cost reroll yourself. So that could explain in part why we have 6 Seraphines on this team. But I don't know if the plan is clear for Sprumble. They're sort of forced into playing a unit that has crowd control because there is this Horizon focus that they took from their first augment. But that has been doing a lot of work for them. Sprumble is on a 5-win streak this stage because they were able to upgrade this Nico too, and Nico is pumping out both damage and durability from this set of items.
I mean, you're really banking on hitting that Tom Kench and just have him, stun everything in the back line. But let me tell you what Sprumble is doing, because he found the Gwen and the Callista, and he decided, oh no, why would I play Gwen or Callista when I can just hold them and make my enemies have massive headaches.
Yeah, they definitely do have a headache. I have a little bit of a headache as well. I wish that we had cleared our bench a little bit before we picked up that golden orb, because that could have been a set of very useful units for us. But it seems as though Sprumble hasn't put a lot of value into those. That's okay though, because
Uh,
we're level 7 and I think we're rolling. We might be rolling for Vigar, we might be rolling for Vex, we might be rolling for Nami, or we might get into this sort of mixed line that you've been talking about, this mixed Chrono Mage line.
um, yeah, it's looking like it, definitely. However, I think the problem that I have with this board is, excuse me, you're sitting at the Vagar one, you're sitting at the Karma one, you're sitting at the Gwen one, and it's a lot of one stars. And what does that mean? It means that category 5 Jinx is just going to say bye bye to your board, because those those bolts are firing on multiple targets. So now it's a lot more difficult for you. However, the third augments are coming in.
That
Um,
decision was made awfully quick, I'll say it. We do have a Mage Crown coming in for our third augment. I think that this does mean we are going to be moving away eventually from this Nico as our frontliner. We can transfer that Horizon focus over onto a Nami, and she is going to be doing a decent amount of damage every time she gets that third cast. And our other players are selecting their augments as well. We have 2 Jinx players, both starting with category 5. Higanbana is going to be selecting a Radiant item. And we can see that there are a variety of Radiant items coming into play for everyone, as the anvil is still open at the bottom of our screen, but Higanbana has chosen the Radiant Even Shroud, buffing up that Wukong, as well as providing Shred to the enemy front line.
um, I just want to point out something in Vector. And
Go on.
and that thing is, the real control has hit 3-star Kog'Maw, 3-star Blitzcrank, and has also managed to hit a Hunter Crown. So this means that 6 Hunter is going to be coming in, and we already saw Wiglor have a very strong game with those 6 Hunters. So the real control is waiting on a Namzi. Kinda sad to think about, because Namzi, one of the cheapest and the earliest one of the earliest units that you can get, is still missing from our board here to help us out. But I also think there is a little bit of a lack of optimization, because you have 3 vanguards instead of 2 or 4. And well, if you have five hunter, you might as well just go back down to 4.
Yeah, I do feel like, this is a game time decision where it's hard to drop a level of Hunter here, because, your Twitch is providing you with both Frost, with Frost here. You could potentially play a Mordekaiser over this Warwick, drop Twitch, and then play another high value unit. But maybe the real control doesn't see that angle exactly. I think that they also have a lot of power in econ here. Every round they're gaining EXP from patient study, which is what really surprises me, why they chose to play reroll. But we know they had all of those blitzcranks at the start of the game, and they also found a ton of Kog'Maws. So to me, this actually did end up making sense. If it was this easy to hit Blitz 3 and Kog'Maw 3, I don't even hate this.
No, and it's definitely a just hit angle, because now you also have 5 Mordekaisers. Uh, On that bench, you have 7 Twitches. You have a Lesser Champion Duplicator. You're going to be rolling down a little bit. Um, did the Real Control skip a Noms here? Was that a different unit?
I'm not sure. Uh, I think that the real control, like, I really cannot predict how this game is going to go for them. They do get the 4 Vanguards in instead of Frost, and I think that that is going to offer them some value against the Zoe that they are currently up against. We can see that Jose Loma really is playing the Portal reroll, playing around this Zoe, playing around the Galio, but I don't think they're going to be quite as strong as the real control is here because there just simply isn't as much damage. You have 2 itemized backliners, 2 very strong hunters in this Kog'Maw and this Jinx, and I think that the real control is getting the better of the lobby because if you think about it, there are 2 other Jinx players, but none of them are going to hit Jinx 3 when the real control is denying 3 of them and they're contesting each other. And we get the assembly for the extra Twitch and the Nomsy, so now we are going to be able we sold the Twitch. We sold the 2-star Twitch.
I saw that happen and I was like, are my eyes deceiving me? And then I thought, no, my eyes are not
No!
deceiving me.
Now we're still re-rolling. Just level up.
I'm sorry, has the Real Control lost their mind a little bit?
I think they might have just lost their hand for a second. And unfortunately that second is sometimes all you need to throw your spot a little bit. I wouldn't even consider it this is not like the biggest mistake of all time. It is just unfortunate, right? Because your plan was one thing and now you've gone away from it. And if you don't realize it, you might spend a lot more time trying to roll for this Twitch 3 or trying to make up for that mistake. At the same time though, is more than enough to beat King M, who seems to have taken the golden egg at an HP that is a little unreasonable for it.
I mean, listen, sometimes I would go for the golden egg even at 100 HP and think, oh god, no. And then, well, it does look like right now we have a little bit of a clearer plan from a couple of the other boards in our lobby, especially from someone like Llama, who has decided to be a little bit more innovative in their approach, because well, seeing their board, it is definitely looking a little bit more like that Gwen has remained a witchcraft. And I mean, Invective, it kind of makes sense. You know, you want Sugarcraft to be put on Fiora for those extra stats to help you out. But looking at it here, you know, you get 6 Witchcraft from the Gwen, and Gwen can also deal a lot of AoE damage, so she can apply that stun and that curse. So technically, wouldn't this just make sense from like a logistical viewpoint?
I mean, hey, if it works, it works. I think Llama has been able to play into their strengths insofar as they have upgraded the units that they got a lot of, and this Gwen has been stacking sugar. This Gwen has been doing very well through the mid game, and we know that all Llama had to do was hit 1 extra Gwen in order to get this upgrade together, right? But what they also did was they found Fiora 2, they found a pair of Morganas, and they have plenty of gold left over. So they don't have to have the most optimal level 8 board because they're going level 9. They have another major act for them left in this game. And that means that this game plan, to me, this makes sense. In 2 or 3 turns, they have the opportunity to go to level 9, they have the opportunity to find Morgana 2, and they can get a more powerful backliner activated, right? They don't have to ride with this, 1-star Zillion, 1-star Zoe for the rest of the game. They can put in Emilio, they can put in a Xerath, they can activate Arcana. There's a whole variety of things that they can do to cap out their board, and there's nothing stopping them.
No, there really isn't a lot of things that can stop Llama right now, because you see. Oh wow.
Oh, we went to level
wow.
9.
We went to level 9, we hit the Briar, we hit the Voidling, And basically, the front line is now not lacking for Llama at all, and it's still really, really strong. And you see that Gwen that has those triple items. You see the Fiora who has a Radiant Titans, a Bloodthirster, and I believe that Llama is trying to reroll that belt into that vest into a belt to get himself to Sterag's Gauge.
Yeah, and this fight is going excellently. Higanbana is one of our Jinx players. Unfortunately, they're going to go out in 6th place. And Llama is alive and well, still winning rounds, still doing the do.
I mean, Llama is I think Llama is now going to start losing a little bit more HP by feeding the Briar rather than uh you know trying to win out rounds and fail. But yeah, it is looking like Llama is so strong right now. Only person with a win streak, someone else who has also managed to stabilize a little bit is the Real Control, who just managed to hit the Olaf 2. So is the okay, now we have the 6 Hunter coming in. It's been a long time coming, but it finally came. And Invective, I think this board may be a little bit strong.
Yeah, we saw a lot of the power of. Why is there a Namzi 1 on this board? I know we upgraded a Namzi 2. It's totally fine. The Real Control has found a ton of power. They have Cogma 3, they have Mordekaiser 3, and now they're level 9. They're going up against Sprumble, who moved the Horizon Focus onto the Nami in the backline, and she is going to do tons of damage across the entire board, but it's spread out damage. It doesn't take down the Mordekaiser, and Vigar is having a hard time chewing through all of those shields, all of that AP. It is a victory for the Real Control, and Sprumble goes down to 20 HP. That's looking dicey. That could be a problem as we go into stage 6.
The Real Control just found 2 Tom Kenches. There's also a Morgana if he wants more recon, or even a Smolder if he wants some a little bit of extra damage. But oh my, this is just. I think this is a very strong board. It's a little bit of a more creative board. Once you see, you don't really see Vanguards getting played with Hunters that much. You're basically looking more towards that Wukong. However, it's a good adaptation from the Real Control. Has hit that 3-star Kog'Maw, has hit that 3-star Mordekaiser to help out with the tankiness, and we're already seeing, against Llama, against our point leader, sorry, our win streaker, it is going to struggle just a tiny bit and take that 2-unit loss. However, I still think that the Real Control and Llama should be the people at the forefront to win this lobby.
Yeah, as you predicted, Llama's only real source of HP loss at this point is gonna be feeding Briar. But there is something cooking here because Sprumble might be looking to repeat what Crazy did and find a Karma 3 at this stage of the game. We have 6 Karmas, a roll down upcoming, and I don't know if the other players in the lobby are wise to it because this bench is looking really stacked. We also have the Vigar to roll for, the Tom Kench. We have a Mage Diana that's cooking on our board. So there are lots of things that Sprumble could do, and now it's up to them to decide, what are we going to do with this money? Well, we have to pick an item first. Which is the one that we want for our Vigar? It could be the Gnasher's Tooth, it could be the Adaptive Helm, it could be the Archangel Staff, but we're going to get another Jeweled Gauntlet, and that's a lot of spell crit as we get to level 9.
Yeah, I mean, that is going to be a lot of damage coming in, but also I feel like some of these units are not really necessary for Sprumble, because I don't think you're ever 3-starring that Vigar or that Vex if you're looking at it. Ooh, that could be a very interesting item.
It is a very interesting choice to be made, but Sprumble is down to 1 HP, and I don't know if any of those is going to be like the most powerful choice, right? This this Trinity Force or this Infinity Force is going to be doing a fair amount when you put it on this Diana. It's going to improve her first cast. It's going to give her more durability overall. But this board, like you said, there's some stuff on it that could go. There's a Nora in our shop. I'd love to see us make a decision to play for that. Definitely better than something like this Soraka, right?
Yeah, it's certainly looking like that Soraka and that early Seraphine was a little bit, you know,
Oh, we bought it, but she didn't make her way onto the board.
Sprumble. You only have 4 HP. The real control is looking towards anyone as his competitor. And honestly, if I'm the real control, if I'm vying for that last world spot, I wouldn't. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'd be kind of scared in my pants.
Yeah, I'd be kind of scared too. Sprumble is looking very powerful, as we saw that Llama also took a loss. This Diana actually seems really powerful, and now this turn, I hope we get Nora on our board. I don't know who's the best user for this Nora. Vigar is very strong, Nami's doing a ton of damage, and this Diana could even benefit from the healing, as 7 Mage buffs up her cast. Every second cast she has an additional power, so she casts twice and she has the additional power. Now Llama, though, is level 10. All of these carries are melee units. If we go up into the fight against Sprumble, what if they all get hit by a tidal wave?
And well, that's going to have to be the big question because Llama has just
Gwen's in the
gone
back
up
line.
against that mage board, and this uh Gwen did things to that backline damage of Llama, but it doesn't really matter because Morgana is a stupidly strong unit, and that Bard is also very, very strong.
Yeah, I would say that Morgana did a surprising amount of damage at the end of the fight. I am surprised to see her pop off so hard, because my Morgana has simply never done that. But I would say that Llama has certainly set her up for success by playing so many Witchcraft units, by giving her that extra true damage, and she's been executing the units at the end of the fight who didn't have any items to speak of. So now we can see the Sugarcraft has come through. We're going to get a component for our Jinx. It's going to complete the Last Whisper, and we have the chance to either roll for this Olaf 3 or go to level 9, and it's gonna be Olaf. We are finding more and more units on the bench, but holding the Namis isn't gonna help. It's Olaf in the shop.
I'm sorry. Are we watching last game?
Yeah, let me just say this: the real control skipped Twitch 3, sold Blitzcrank 3, found Cog 3 for free, has a Mordekaiser 3, and then the next time, like in between level 7 like 50 gold and level 9 20 gold, we saw them do that in like 5 stages. There's been so much econ power here, but they dominate the end of the game as Llama is going to fall down here at the end of stage 6-5. What an incredible showing from the real control, just playing whatever the game gave them, and really just having like that was incredible. I am speechless.
Yeah, I can see my face because twice now we see a 3-star forecast come in, and you also see the real control who was basically struggling with that patient study with a lot of those units. Sold the Blitzcrank 3, sold what was potentially a Twitch 3, sold a Namzi 2, and then randomly just goes level 9, hits Olaf 3, and wins the game.
Yeah, what an incredible game plan. I'm afraid that both of us casters are getting a little bit tired, so let's keep the post-game lobby to a shorter discussion, right? That was an incredible showing from some of our top players. I know, Deadly Ghost, your dinner consisted primarily of popcorn. I hope that this last game provided you the cinema that you were looking
Yeah.
for, provided you the chefs that you wanted to eat from, because some of the players in this game were doing incredible things, and even at the end, what is more or less the end of set 12, we still have more TFT action, more new things to see, and that is really what makes this competition, really what makes this game so special.
Yeah, it is. It is really, really. I mean, looking at it, you you really don't expect it here to you really don't expect to see it that that often, because usually it was reserved for the highest echelon of these players. And I think, wow, I was I was very surprised to see it happen. But I do want to thank everyone who has tuned in for the Ireland Collegiate Esports. I do also want to thank our sponsors in Coca Noodles and Stack, Rira, Dogpatch Labs, GG Machines Play 8, and also the Ireland Esports Collegiate Championship is powered by Nativz. I don't think production has that leaderboard ready for us, but okay, so from what production has told us, it means that Uh, Telku Savai has managed to get a first and a second in their last two games and is on 72 points, which means that, if I'm not wrong, Invective, Telku Savai is officially our first finalist of the Ireland Collegiate Esports Series.
Yeah, there were a lot of challengers that lined up for Thelkusify. There were players who were close by in points and did reasonably well this week, like Sheep. Right, we saw awesome performances from Sheep, taking a first, what I believe is a first place and a second place. But those are the scores that Thelkusify put up. Those are the scores that you are going to need in order to lock in the finals. And Thelkusify really just put the hurt on the rest of the
Mm.
tournament, on the rest of the field today, and has done for the last several weeks. So very proud of them for showing out this much in the fifth week of the competition. I've been Invective as always, and thank you to Deadly Ghost for casting alongside me. Um, Once again, thanks to all of our sponsors, and signing off, have a good evening.
Have a good one.
Turn and run, met the bitter truth and I choked it down. Left a bad taste on my tongue, but my appetite's been growing now. I can see you crawling in your skin, but no one's coming out to hold you close. I'm pouring out the gasoline, so say hello to all my ghosts. I'm moving like a shadow. You're walking in my dead zone. Breathing slow. Ooh, love the hunt, love the high. Watching life fade from your eyes. Ooh, and this is not a warning. This is not a test. I'm turning on you and I'm coming for the rest. And I'm about to ignite. Just try to play it cool. Echoes in my head. I